Well, welcome back, folks. Sheepdog Smokey here, and I hope you had a good start to your week. Uh, I pretty much live by the mantra that this was the Mondayest Monday that has ever Mondayed, because it just seems that the world is stuck in a rut. I try to avoid politics on the news as much as I can because it's the same thing regurgitated over and over again ad nauseum. I have a few people that I watch or listen to on the radio when they're on: Gutfield, Tucker, Hannity, Levin, Dana Lash when I can catch her while I'm at work, because they are not portraying their shows as this is a news broadcast. They are very much opinion persons, and that's different because they are open about it and they don't couch their opinion as this is unadulterated fact. I haven't turned on CNN or MSNBC in over a decade total. Every now and then I'll find myself on NBC, CBS, or ABC, but I tend to watch my local news, and that's about it. And then I have my opinion people. But the state of it, you just cannot avoid. Before we get into it deeper, though, please remember to subscribe to the video, turn on notifications, and give us a like so that we can grow the channel. I've said before, there's not a push for me to just grow exponentially, but I'm not averse to it. I would like it because it would let me do something that I enjoy doing, that being speaking, that being passing on knowledge. And I'm not able to do that in the classroom because I don't also coach. But the one that got me today, because I've seen it a couple of times, and there's kind of a couple, as always, there's a couple of sides to it. We have people like Gabriel Sherman who are just going insane and spreading lies that Donald Trump is flipping out and he's losing control over coronavirus and he's banning people and banning journalists. But in a matter of 30 seconds, you can find at least 3 people on Twitter alone that are openly saying, if I'm diagnosed with coronavirus, I'm going to a MAGA rally. They're openly telling people that if they're confirmed to be infected, they're going to try to spread this virus to Trump supporters. So in a world where people who have a large audience on social media openly say, I will infect as many people as I can, when someone says, well, I'm hearing these reports and I'm going to try to mitigate that with my team, then they are the ones attacked. And it's all the same crap as when you see idiots say, don't call it the Wuhan virus. Well, it is the Wuhan virus. It originated in the Wuhan province of China. If it had originated in Osaka, it would be the Osaka virus. If it had originated in St. Petersburg, it would be the St. Petersburg virus. London, the London virus. Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh virus. Montevideo, Uruguay would have been the Montevideo virus. It doesn't matter. It is geography. Geography is not racist. But that's all they have to go on. Kind of on a tangential relationship to that, though, I did hear a bit from Piers Morgan, and I'm more surprised every time I hear him speak that I'm starting to agree with him. Not too long ago, Piers was in some ways the voice of the left, and he was very much the person who talked down to those who didn't agree with him. At least that's what I was hearing. But hearing him on Tucker tonight on the way home from work and hearing him talk about, yes, the people who live in Los Angeles, in West Hollywood, and in Bel Air, and in these isolated communities of nothing but movie stars, TV stars, musicians, and other celebrities, they don't know what's really going on. They don't drive through Los Angeles and see the homelessness everywhere. They don't see the problems being caused by a Democrat-run state. They see their bank account grow. They see themselves invited to parties and premieres, and they see their life as being very good. but they don't see the person they wanted in the White House, so of course they have to complain. I've asked a few people on Twitter, and I know I'm likely to never get a response from any of the Hollywood socialistas, but when they complain that Donald Trump is not doing enough to respond to coronavirus, they're liars, for first. He already, just 3 weeks after it was discovered, imposed travel restrictions on China. Of course, instantly, he's a racist, he hates Chinese people. Well, when it's proven that that stopped a massive, massive percent of the spread to the U.S., everybody goes silent. They can't dare say I was wrong and the travel restrictions did work, because they won't accept anything but obedience. They wouldn't even accept it if Donald Trump went into a laboratory, came out and said, here's a cure, broke it on the ground, and the world was cured instantly. They would be screaming that doctors are going to lose business. I mean, I've said it before, Donald Trump could personally and on his own cure cancer and all other disease, and they would complain that doctors are being put out of work. He could walk across the surface of the reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Donald Trump can't swim, afraid of water. It doesn't matter. But when you ask them, should Donald Trump federalize the National Guard and take full control of California, kick every state official out of their office and just run the place? No one responds. Because we all know, if he even joked about that, every Democrat in office anywhere in this country and every liberal judge on a bench would be screaming for impeachment for overreaching his power. Donald Trump cannot just step in and run California and fix the problems. He can do a lot to work with the state governments, but he cannot just take over and run the show. States have a large percentage of autonomy when it comes to what can and cannot happen within their borders. Really, aside from having to enforce federal law, which a lot of them are not, they really can't be run by the Fed. If a highway that is interstate is failing, yes, the feds can have some say in how that is repaired, because it is an interstate highway. It runs between multiple states. But it's limited things like that. Gavin Newsom needs to grow a spine and a brain and accept the fact that he is the chief executive in the state of California. Ultimately, he needs to be the one to act, not give speeches about how Donald Trump won't give him billions of dollars to do whatever the hell he wants to with it. I called it when the Supreme Court case ruled that the president can withhold federal funding from sanctuary states. I called it the second I read it that California would declare a state of emergency for some reason to say we need the money and you can't withhold it. And within weeks or less, Newsom did just that. I've made the quote from Ronald Reagan that our republic is one generation from destruction, never more than one generation away. And I've said that many times because it's very true today, just as it was in the 1980s. Ronald Reagan came in after Carter and his blundering with Iran and his blundering with the oil crisis, and turned the country around in just 4 years. 1984 rolls around for the re-election, and he stood there as Mondale tried to immediately pick up his, are you better than you were 4 years ago? That's what Reagan used in 1980. Are you better now than you were 4 years ago? And the country resoundingly said no. In 84, Mondale tried to use it against Reagan. Are you better now than you were 4 years ago? And the country resoundingly said, yes, we are, and re-elected him. Ronald Reagan was very much like Donald Trump. He was very direct in what he said, and he used comedy to great effect. I was 7 during the 1984 re-election of campaign for Ronald Reagan, but I do remember my parents watching the news and the video clip where Mondale tries to say that Reagan is too old. And Reagan, in his inimitable style, said, "I will not let age become a defining issue of my campaign. I refuse to use my opponent's youth and inexperience against him." That right there, Mondale knew. Just like it was said, I believe it was Hannity, said, that was the moment Mondale knew he was sunk. He was cracking up at Reagan's joke. And he knew it was over at that exact moment. When Reagan was shot during his first term and he wakes up in the hospital, he tells the nurse, "I didn't like that take." You couldn't keep Reagan down. The press knew it, the Democrats knew it, and the country knew it. They knew that Ronald Reagan, for all of his faults, and he was far more liberal than my parents were and are, but far less than the Democrats. He knew that if you lowered taxes, the economy would go higher because people are going to spend the money they have. And Donald Trump is very much the same. I saw him speak at the NRA annual meeting in Dallas, Texas, a couple of years ago. And he was talking about, as he was about to board Air Force One, someone said, "Do you think it's wise to go to an NRA meeting when so many of your critics are saying the NRA is a horrible organization?" And he said, "You want to know what I said? Bye-bye, gotta get on a plane." I mean, that is the essential Donald J. Trump. He doesn't pull his punches when he's talking. He's very blunt. He's very direct. He is going to tell you exactly what he thinks. And that's what upset me just to no end a few days ago. We saw Chuck Schumer brazenly threaten 2 Supreme Court justices. And in his non-apology, he says, "I'm from Brooklyn. It's just how we talk." But when Donald Trump very much embodies being a New Yorker and being very direct and very blunt, Schumer leads the charge on he's unprofessional. It's always, I can do anything I want, you can do nothing I don't tell you you can do, and even then, I might come back and tell you no later. And these people want to run the country. They want to run it into the ground. I mean, for crying out loud, we have liberals praying for economic disaster, praying for a pandemic, praying for civil unrest, because they cannot stand that they lost an election. I mean, every single one of them has campaigned on, "I will end the Electoral College." The second that any of them get into the White House and try to rule by fiat that the Electoral College is dismantled, they should at that point be impeached right then and there for violating the Constitution and their oath of office. Every member of Congress who has said they are going to do this should be removed from office for violating their oath of office. You cannot do away with the Electoral College. It's in the Constitution. It takes 2/3 of the states to call a convention, or 2/3 of Congress to vote on an amendment, and then 3/4 of the states, 38 states, to ratify an amendment. You're never going to get 38 states to agree, "Oh yeah, sure, let's let California, New York, and Oregon and Washington rule the country." Just like you'll never get 38 states to say, "Sure, we'll disarm our citizens and leave them helpless." You'll never get it. I have predicted for over 2 years that when we see a landslide victory, 40 plus states going overwhelmingly red, massive Electoral College victory, massive popular vote victory, you will see Democrats say it's invalid. It was fraud. It doesn't matter. Had Obama won the popular vote won the electoral but not the popular, they would have said, "Oh, well, no, that's the way it works." They rigged their primaries with an Electoral College style delegate system. It's great for their primaries, but it shouldn't be allowed for the federal vote. All of this, from praying for pandemic, from being just completely separated from the world, where they don't even know what's going on outside their fence, and everything else, proves we need a full change of Congress. 535 pink slips handed out. Ted Cruz introduced a constitutional amendment to limit senators, I believe senators to 2 terms and House representatives to 3. a term limit amendment. And it would have meant, and it will mean, if it ever gets ratified, that he's out of a job on the next election. And he knows this. He's not worried about it because, of course, having served in the Senate as long as he has and other things, he could retire and be happy. But we have Democrats who openly tell you you can't limit us because we need to be here as long as we need to get the job done. And Maxine Waters sits there for 3 decades and does nothing. Bernie Sanders, 4 decades, does nothing. Biden, 4 decades, nothing. But when it comes to the president, we have to limit that. We can't have someone who can't write a law, but they're just enforcing law. They can't be there more than 8 years. It just baffles me that more people don't see the hypocrisy. But we have people so indoctrinated into the hate of the left that they openly admit they would vote for a horse manure pile, a literal pile of horse manure, over Donald Trump, because they don't care who wins as long as it is not the one person they hate. I am not rich by any means. I'm under $50,000 a year by a chunk. And my taxes went down with Donald Trump. My medical insurance costs went down under Donald Trump. My quality of life has gotten better under Donald Trump. And when I tell people this, they look at me and call me a liar. I offered to show someone my 2017 and 2018 tax returns, proving that I paid less in tax and I did not make, I think, maybe $1,000 more in 2018 than 2017. And I said, if you will sign a confidentiality agreement saying you will not release my information under penalty of being sued into abject oblivion, I will send you PDFs. And I will not send them from me. I'll have my tax preparer send you the PDF proving my taxes went down. It blocked me. These are the people screaming for Donald Trump's tax returns. But when I offer to provide mine, proving the tax cuts are not just for the rich, they can't take it. We have to turn this around. We have to stop the hemorrhaging of intelligence from our society. And it really needs to start with education, where you remove the stupid rule that in order to teach a certain subject, you must coach. I guarantee you could take that assistant football coach, that special teams coach, have him coach volleyball and track as well, and he'd be a full-time employee. You could cut your coaching staff by about 1/3 or more, and you'd still have plenty of coaches. And then hire someone full-time to teach social studies, where their entire job is just to educate children when it comes to history, government, economics, geography, and so on. But they don't want to do that because they save a little bit of money because, well, they're not a full-time coach and they're not a full-time teacher, so they don't get the same benefits and perks and extra money that a full-time teacher or a full-time coach does. And it looks good. And they don't care that they're doing horrible disservice to our children. I really don't know what else to say. As always, please remain civil in the comments. We're not here to scream and yell at each other. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it until the day I die. I learned more from a spirited but civil debate than I did in any class I took. It's very simple. When you get into that spirited civil debate, you have to do your own research. You have to go find more source material and more information to back up your stance on an issue. And you learn. You're forced to learn. So please, remain civil in the comments. As always, and again, please remember to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way you're kept abreast of all new content as it posts. I am trying to do the one video a day where this is really just a conversation. There will be times when I respond to specific things, but I'm trying to keep those few and far between. But in that vein, you'll want to know when I post off schedule, so that notification will do that. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.